Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a single, just awful event that completely changed the direction of American history, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. You know, it's a story about tragedy, sure, but it's also about injustice, and maybe most importantly, about the incredible movement that literally rose from the ashes.
So, let's jump right into it. We're not going to start at the beginning, but right in the middle of all the chaos. Picture it. It's the afternoon of March 25th, 1911. We're inside a packed, noisy garment factory in New York City.
This is what people saw. A fire was just tearing through the top floors of the Triangle factory. Down below, this huge crowd could only watch, completely helpless, screaming at the workers trapped inside to wait for help that, well, for so many of them, it just wasn't going to get there in time.
146. That's the number. That's how many people died in just a few minutes. Most of them were young women, girls, really, many of them immigrants. The question is, how on earth did this happen?
To really get the fire, you have to get what the factory itself was like. See, this wasn't some freak accident. No way. The conditions inside the Triangle factory made a disaster like this feel, well, almost guaranteed. It was a ticking time bomb.
And this timeline, it's so important. Just 1 year before the fire, these exact same workers had gone on strike. They were begging for safer conditions. But the owners, Max Blank and Isaac Harris, they flat out rejected their demands. They even called the cops on them. So, flash forward to March 25th, a fire starts, and the workers run to the main exit doors only to find they're locked from the outside.
I mean, look at this. It's a really chilling contrast, right? On one side, you've got the owners totally obsessed with preventing theft and stopping workers from taking unauthorized breaks. Their genius solution: lock the doors. On the other side, the workers were asking for the absolute basics: fire escapes that actually worked, doors that weren't locked, and just a little bit of human dignity. It was those two completely different sets of priorities that sealed their fate.
And here's the part that's it's the ultimate injustice. While the flames were spreading like crazy, fueled by huge piles of cloth scraps all over the floor, the owners, Blank and Harris, the guys who had the keys to those locked doors, they found a way up to the roof and got to safety. They just left their employees trapped down below.
So in the aftermath, the whole city was just consumed by horror and rage. Every eye in New York turned to the courts. People were expecting, no, they were demanding that someone be held responsible for 146 deaths.
So Blank and Harris, they were put on trial for manslaughter. The prosecution brought in survivors, eyewitnesses. They told these harrowing stories. And yet, by the end of 1911, the jury came back with a verdict. Both owners were acquitted of all charges.
Right? That's the question everyone was screaming. How is that possible? Well, they had this high-powered defense attorney who was just a master at manipulating the jury. He managed to poke holes in the testimonies, casting all this doubt on the survivors. Remember, many of them were young immigrant women. And in the end, he convinced the jury to just let his clients walk away, completely free.
And then came what feels like the final insult. Later on, there was a civil suit, and the owners were ordered to pay the victims' families. The final price tag they put on each life that was lost? $75. Just $75.
But you know, the story does not end with that infuriating verdict. It just doesn't. In fact, that combination, the sheer horror of the tragedy, and then the complete failure of the justice system, it created this incredibly powerful, just unstoppable catalyst for change.
The public outrage was off the charts, and the newspapers and magazines, they kept the story on the front page. That constant pressure got reformers, activists, and even politicians moving. They just couldn't ignore the calls for action anymore. This was really the moment that forced America to look itself in the mirror and confront the real human cost of unregulated business.
And the ripple effects from this were huge. I mean, this event directly led to a whole wave of new labor laws and safety regulations. But it was bigger than that. It poured fuel on the fire for the women's suffrage movement, it made labor unions way stronger, and it proved that public pressure could actually force real political change. Women started demanding their power, in activism, in politics, and in the workplace like never before.
So what's the big takeaway here? I think it's that the story of the Triangle Fire isn't just some dusty old historical event. Its legacy is still very much alive and with us. Yeah, this timeline really puts it all in perspective. The fire happens in 1911. Just 2 years later, the same owners were fined again for, you guessed it, locking the doors at a different factory they owned. It actually took until 1991 for the building to be named a National Historic Landmark. And today, it's still this powerful symbol in the fight for workers' rights, not just here, but all over the world.
So the Triangle Fire, it really stands as this permanent, gut-wrenching reminder of the cost of greed and carelessness. It proves that all those safety regulations, all those workers' rights, they aren't just red tape. They are literally written in the blood of the people who came before us. It sparked a revolution in the American workplace for sure, but it leaves us with this really important question to think about. Is that work ever really finished?